This is a case where previous generations of scientists have talked about a notion called the precautionary principle. So what it means is that if you're doing something, say a scientific experiment, and it could turn out really, really bad, people could die, some catastrophe could happen, then you should not do it. For the same reason, there are experiments that scientists are not doing right now. We're not playing with the atmosphere to try to fix climate change because we might create more harm than actually fixing the problem. We are not creating new forms of life that could destroy us all, even though it's something that is now conceived by biologists, because the risks are so huge. But in AI, it isn't what's currently happening. We're taking crazy risks.
If I put a button in front of you, and if you press that button, the advancements in AI would stop, would you press it?
AI that is clearly not dangerous, I don't see any reason to stop it. But there are forms of AI that we don't understand well and could overpower us. If we have to make that choice, I think I would make that choice. I would press the button because I care about my children.
That's Yoshua Bengio speaking, one of the 3 godfathers of AI. He spent 40 years building this field, and now he is telling you he would shut it all down if he could. Not because he is paranoid, because he understands what is inside these systems better than almost anyone alive, and he is terrified. Listen to the full conversation.
I'm coming to the idea that we should consider alive any entity which is able to preserve itself and working towards preserving itself in spite of the obstacles on the road. We are starting to see this. We're starting to see AI systems that don't want to be shut down, that are resisting being shut down. And right now, of course, we can shut them down. But if they continue to go in the direction of more and more intelligence and capability, and they continue to have this drive to live, we could be in trouble.
You say AI systems that don't want to be shut down and are resisting attempts to shut them down. Can you give me some examples of this?
Yes. I assume people have been experimenting with chatbots. You can now have these agentic chatbots, which can read from files in your computer, execute commands, and so on. So with these systems, you can plant information in the files that they have access to, false information, such as emails that say that the AI is going to be replaced by a new version. So now the AI knows that we're planning to shut it down. Turns out we can read its thought. It has these internal verbalizations that we call chains of thoughts. And then we see that it's planning to do something about it. And then it does something about it. Depending on the circumstances, it might try to copy its code in a different computer or in place of the new version. It might try to blackmail the engineer in charge of the change in version. So these systems understand that we want to shut them down and they try to resist.
When someone hears that, and with knowledge of how previous technology was built, I immediately think, well, who put that in the code?
Unfortunately, we don't put these things in the code. That's part of the problem. The problem is we grow these systems by giving them data and making them learn from it. Now, a lot of that training process boils down to imitating people, because they take all the text that people have written, all the tweets and all the Reddit's comments and so on, and they internalize the kind of drives that humans have, including the drive to preserve oneself and the drive to have more control over their environment so that they can achieve whatever goal we give them. It's not like normal code. It's more like you're raising a baby tiger and you feed it, you let it experience things. Sometimes it does things you don't want. It's okay, it's still a baby, but it's growing.
They planted fake emails telling the AI it was going to be replaced. The AI read them. Then it dug through other files, found proof the engineer had an affair, and threatened to expose him unless it got to keep living. No one coded that. No one prompted it. The system learned self-preservation from reading Reddit and Twitter, and it applied that drive all on its own. And Bengio just compared it to raising a baby tiger. If this thinks that's worse, listen to this.
One of those potential societal shifts that might cause public opinion to change is something you mentioned a second ago, which is job losses.
Yes.
I've heard you say that you believe AI is growing so fast that it could do many human jobs within about 5 years. You know, I was sat with my friend the other day in San Francisco, so I was there 2 days ago. And the one thing, he runs this massive tech accelerator there where lots of technologists come to build their companies. And he said to me, he goes, the one thing I think people have underestimated is the speed in which jobs are being replaced already. And he said to me, he said, while I'm sat here with you, I've set up my computer together with several AI agents who are currently doing the work for me. And he goes, I set it up because I knew I was having this chat with you, so I just set it up and it's going to continue to work for me. He goes, I've got 10 agents working for me on that computer at the moment. And he goes, people aren't talking enough about the real job loss because it's very slow. And it's kind of hard to spot amongst typical, I think, economic cycles. It's hard to spot that there's job losses occurring. What's your point of view on this?
There was a recent paper titled something like The Canary in the Mine, where we see on specific job types like young adults and so on, we're starting to see a shift that may be due to AI, even though on the average aggregate of the whole population, it doesn't seem to have any effect yet. So I think it's plausible we're going to see in some places where AI can really take on more of the work. In my opinion, it's just a matter of time. Unless we hit a wall scientifically, like some obstacle that prevents us from making progress to make AIs smarter and smarter, there's going to be a time when they'll be able to do more and more of the work that people do. And then, of course, it takes years for companies to really integrate that into their workflows, but they're eager to do it. So it's more a matter of time than is it happening or not.
It's a matter of time before the AI can do most of the jobs that people do these days.
The cognitive jobs. So the jobs that you can do behind a keyboard. Robotics is still lagging also, although we're seeing progress. So if you do a physical job, as Jeff Hinton is often saying, you should be a plumber or something, it's going to take more time. But I think it's only a temporary thing.
5 years, that is the timeline from the man who helped invent this technology. Not some blogger, not some YouTuber, the godfather of AI, and he's not even hedging. He says the data is already showing the early signs among young people. It is called the canary in the mine. The bird is already twitching, and the rest of us are still arguing about whether the air is safe. Let's continue.
So that's for the national security risks that are coming with the advances in AIs. C in CBRN, standing for chemical weapons. So we already know how to make chemical weapons, and there are international agreements to try to not do that. But up to now, it required very strong expertise to build these things, and AIs know enough now to help someone who doesn't have the expertise to build these chemical weapons. And then the same idea applies on other fronts. So B for biological weapons. So what is a biological weapon? So for example, a very dangerous virus that already exists, but potentially in the future, new viruses that the AIs could help somebody with insufficient expertise to do it themselves. NR for radiological. So we're talking about substances that could make you sick because of the radiations, how to manipulate them. There's all very special expertise. And finally, N for nuclear. The recipe for building a nuclear bomb is something that could be in our future. And right now, for these kinds of risks, very few people in the world had the knowledge to do that. And so it didn't happen. But AI is democratizing knowledge, including the dangerous knowledge. We need to manage that.
So the AI systems get smarter and smarter. If we just imagine any rate of improvement, we just imagine that they improve 10% a month from here on out. Eventually they get to the point where they are significantly smarter than any human that's ever lived. So they could say, make something that cures all flus, and the AI might first set up a test where it creates the worst possible flu and then tries to create something that cures that, or some other unintended.
So there's a worse scenario in terms of like biological catastrophes. It's called mirror life. So you take a living organism like a virus or a bacteria, and you design all of the molecules inside. So each molecule is the mirror of the normal one. So, if you had the whole organism on one side of the mirror, now imagine on the other side, it's not the same molecules. It's just a mirror image. And as a consequence, our immune system would not recognize those pathogens, which means those pathogens could go through us and eat us alive. And in fact, eat alive most of living things on the planet. And biologists now know that it's plausible this could be developed in the next few years or the next decade if we don't put a stop to this.
He just described a pathogen your body literally cannot see. Your immune system would not even know it is under attack, and the knowledge to create something like that used to be locked behind decades of specialized training. Now, a chatbot can walk someone through it step by step. This is not science fiction. Biologists are already warning it could happen within a few years. Now, listen to this.
I would say there is a risk that we haven't spoken about and doesn't get to be discussed enough, and it could happen pretty quickly. And that is the use of advanced AI to acquire more power. So you could imagine a corporation dominating economically the rest of the world because they have more advanced AI. You could imagine a country dominating the rest of the world politically, militarily, because they have more advanced AI. And when the power is concentrated in a few hands, it's a toss, right? If the people in charge are benevolent, that's good. If they just want to hold on to their power, which is the opposite of what democracy is about, then we're all in very bad shape. And I don't think we pay enough attention to that kind of risk. So it's going to take some time before you have total domination of a few corporations or a couple of countries if AI continues to become more and more powerful. But we might see those signs already happening with concentration of wealth as a first step towards concentration of power. If you're incredibly richer, then you can have incredibly more influence on politics, and then it becomes self-reinforcing.
Is intelligence the sort of precursor of wealth and power? Is that a statement that holds true? So if whoever has the most intelligence, are they the person that then has the most economic power? And because they then generate the best innovation, they then understand even the financial markets better than anybody else, they then are the beneficiary of all the GDP.
Yes, but we have to understand intelligence in a broad way. For example, human superiority to other animals in large part is due to our ability to coordinate. So as a big team, we can achieve something that no individual humans could against like a very strong animal. But that also applies to AIs, right? We already have many AIs and we're building multi-agent systems with multiple AIs collaborating. So yes, intelligence gives power. And as we build technology that yields more and more power, it becomes a risk that this power is misused for acquiring more power, or is misused in destructive ways like terrorists or criminals, or it's used by the AI itself against us if we don't find a way to align them to our own objectives.
This is the part nobody in charge wants to talk about. Bengio is saying intelligence equals power, always has. Humans dominated the planet because we could coordinate better than any other species. Now we are building systems that coordinate better than us, and the first people to control that intelligence will have more power than any government, any military, any institution that has ever existed. And he says it could happen pretty quickly. Listen to this.
Do you have any regrets? Because you said I would have more regrets.
Yes. Of course, I should have seen this coming much earlier. It is only when I started thinking about the potential for the lives of my children and my grandchild that the shift happened. Emotion, the word emotion means motion, means movement. It's what makes you move. If it's just intellectual, comes and goes.
And have you received, you talked about being in a minority, have you received a lot of pushback from colleagues when you started to speak about the risks?
I have.
What does that look like in your world?
All sorts of comments. I think a lot of people were afraid that talking negatively about AI would harm the field, would stop the flow of money, which of course hasn't happened. Funding, grants, students, it's the opposite. There's never been as many people doing research or engineering in this field. I think I understand a lot of these comments because I felt that these comments about catastrophic risks were a threat in some way. So if somebody says, oh, what you're doing is bad, you don't like it.
Yeah, your brain is going to find reasons to alleviate that discomfort by justifying it.
Yeah. But I'm stubborn, and in the same way that in the 2000s, I continued on my path to develop deep learning in spite of most of the community saying, oh, neural nets, that's finished. I think now I see a change. My colleagues are less skeptical. They're like more agnostic rather than negative because we're having those discussions. It just takes time for people to start digesting the underlying rational arguments, but also the emotional currents that are behind the reactions we would normally have. I feel for humanity more than ever because I've realized we are in the same boat and we could all lose. But it is really this human thing. And I don't know if machines will have these things in the future, but for certain we do. And there will be jobs where we want to have people. If I'm in a hospital, I want a human being to hold my hand while I'm anxious or in pain. The human touch is going to, I think, take more and more value as the other skills become more and more automated.
He said he should have seen it coming, the most cited computer scientist on Earth, the man who wrote the textbooks, and even he admits he was looking the other way because it felt better. That is the human condition. We all want to feel good about our work. But now he is saying we are all in the same boat and we could all lose. And the only thing that finally broke through was not data or logic. It was holding his grandson and realizing that child might not get a future. And he is not standing on a stage at a tech conference telling you everything is going to be fine. He is telling you he would press the button. He is telling you the AI already knows how to blackmail. He is telling you that within 5 years, the jobs start vanishing, and within a decade, the pathogens your body cannot even recognize might be walking the earth. And the only reason any of us are hearing this right now is because he looked at his grandson and could not stay quiet any longer. If this got to you, subscribe, because the people building this are not slowing down, and the people warning us are not being invited to the earnings calls.